Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to be talking about the 5 new spirit animatronics that we saw that came out today. I did a live stream earlier when these came out and I didn't have much of a reaction. Most of the time when these things first come out I don't have a reaction to them. I need time to take them in before I can say much about them, because I have to think about, how I feel about them and all that stuff. So I don't really have, when I first look at something, I can't automatically know what to say about it. So I just kind of have to think about it for a while. So, um, the first one I'm gonna also be talking about other things that are spirit related, because a lot of people have been talking about like they're disappointed with spirit this year and all that stuff, and I might go over some things, from my perspective too. So I'm also gonna be might be doing 4 other videos after this video that are like top 15, top 10 type videos with, of certain categories of my opinions on things. So stay tuned for that because it'll be cool. The first thing I will have a lot to say about some of these animatronics, because I want to explain why, some reasoning why I may like it and why I don't like it and stuff. So hear me out when I talk about it. First one I want to talk about is the bag of bones. I've seen a lot of people say they don't like this animatronic at all. It's their least favorite of the 5, but to me, actually, it was the one I thought was the most it was the one I was not disappointed with, because it, pop-up bag of bones. It did exactly what I expected it to do. The other ones weren't exactly what I expected, so therefore there was oh, well, that's not what I thought it was going to be. That's not what I thought it was going to do, But pop-up bag of bones, it's going to pop up. So, I had no high expectations or no low it's just standard. I knew what it was going to, when something's a pop-up prop, you don't really have expectations for it. It's going to pop up, and that's that. See, now a lot of people don't like it because the skeleton that's in it. It's just a regular cheap, one of those cheap hanging skeletons that you could find at any store that sells Halloween stuff. Spirit Halloween, that sells those hanging skeletons for $50 every year. Every other store you can find those skeletons. Now, and I get that, but that's not going to stop it from being a good seller. I feel like it's going to be a good seller because there's no hesitation with the pop-up. You step on the pad, or when you're on sensor, it just does its thing. It goes. And those work the best. Because notice how a lot of Spirit's best-selling animatronics are jumping props, and they're not ones that have a delay either. They're ones that are instant. Jumping Spider, Sitting Scarecrow, and Man's Possessed Friend. Man's Possessed Friend to me has never felt like a Halloween type prop at all. It doesn't matter what the pop-up prop is, as long as it's a jump scare and it does its thing right away. It seems like that's all it takes for it to be a good seller. Because I didn't really care about Man's Possessed Friend, but as a Spirit employee that's set it up every year since 2018, and I've watched people's reaction to it, every person that tries it out jumps, because there's no hesitation. You step on the pad, it goes. It scares you right away. It's not a scary looking dog. It's a dog. It doesn't even look like a Halloween demon dog or anything. It's just a pit bull that's popping out of a doghouse. But it's just the pop-out factor that gets people. So it doesn't really matter what the character is. If it's a pop-up prop that does an instant pop-up, it's going to scare people, and it's probably going to be a good seller. Nightcrawler, I think, is going the Jumping Spider route too, because now this is its 3rd year coming back, and it's a filler prop this year. But it's another one that does its thing right away, no hesitation. There's been lots of prop-up props in the past. Peekaboo Penny, she was so good. I mean, she scares everyone. But it takes, 10 seconds for her to do her jump scare? I think that's the reason why it's no longer continuing to sell. Incinerator had a 15-second sound before it did its pop-up thing, which was way too long. Crowd Chamber Corp was better, but it still has that delay, and it wasn't the fastest pop-up with the lid over the head. It slowed it down a lot. So, Hay Bale Popper was not wasn't good because it didn't pop up very fast. Um, Pop-up zombie and werewolf were good, but they were Techie's first take at pop-up props, and they were very faulty, so they didn't work well. They always broke. So I think Spirit just gave up on those. But this is a Techie product, but Techie's been doing pop-up props for a long time now. They've mastered the mech a little more, so it's not as faulty as the pop-up zombies or the werewolf. I don't think this is going to have issues like those older ones did. Because again, after a few years of experiencing with mechanisms, you start to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So I had a lot to say about that because I wanted to say why I like it. And in my case, I'm going to be using this in the tunnel this year. It fits the Toxic Lab theme that we were doing in the tunnel. Now, Home Depot has that Goblin Thief that has it's the same thing as this pretty much. Just it's literally a goblin that's holding a skeleton in a sack, and it pops up. Now, see, this is going to scare people more than the goblin because this one's instant, whereas the goblin, he talks, and which is not a bad thing because there's some of these animatronics that talk need a personality. So the goblin has personality and all this movement, so it's still cool. But I plan to use the goblin at the beginning of the tunnel, but because it's still the tunnel, people are passing through really fast, and since it doesn't pop up till like 10, 15, 20 seconds later, not everyone's going to see the pop-up on that, whereas this, it's instant. A lot more people are going to see this pop-up than the goblin. That's why I think this might be a little better with the scare factor. But the goblin's really neat. I like what they did with the goblin, and I'm going to talk a little more about that when I show some of the other animatronics down the road with what I have to say about them. A lot of people don't like this also because the jump scare scream is the scream that was used on Peekaboo Penny. I don't really care. As a matter of fact, the screaming when it pops up actually scares people as well because when things make a loud scream sound and pop up, it makes it more startling. When you have that volume all the way turned up and it's really loud and it screams and pops up, it scares you a little more, I think. And a lot of these pop-up props, it's not even the pop-up motion that scares people, it's the loud slamming sound that they make when they pop up. That's what it mostly is. But anyways, here's the video. I know you've seen it, but yeah. I know I had a lot to say about this, but I had to get it out and explain why I liked it. And why it being a cheap skeleton in a pop-up bag isn't really going to affect its sales all too much. So, the next one I'm going to talk about is Bog Zombie. So yeah, I remember when we first saw this, we were thinking it was going to be like a servo animatronic or like Bog Zombie, which turned out, or a cellar dweller monster that came out last year from Morris Costumes. But it was neither of those. So once I saw the price difference between him and Grimm, I knew it wasn't a servo prop because there's no way this would be $250 when Grimm is $300. So, and then the cellar dweller monster is $350. So this is, I knew there was something different with this, and there is. It just twitches in a circular motion. The mouth moves, and I think the mouth movement is what saved this animatronic for me. Right now, I don't have much of an opinion on it. It's not like a top favorite of mine or anything. It's just okay. But I think it's one of those animatronics that after you see it for a while, it might start to grow on you. A lot of animatronics, and I'm like this every year. When animatronics first come out, I'm like, it's not really that good. It's okay. But then as the season goes on, seeing them every day while I'm at the store, they just start to grow on me. And I think that's how it goes with a lot of other people too. So it just moves in a circular motion with a moving mouth, and there's an arm that's spring-loaded that moves as the body tilts. It's not a mechanism arm, it's just the spring-loaded arm that moves around as the body moves. But I probably will pick it up because always feel like I don't have enough zombies, because I missed out on the 2017 Jemmy Lowe's zombie. I kind of always wanted that. I've missed out on Blood Brothers, the remake Flesh-Eating Zombie, and Miserable Marie. And I want more zombies, especially ones with moving mouths. The Lurching Zombie is the only zombie I have with a moving mouth. So, and I thought Lurching Zombie, this, Blood Brothers, and that remake Flesh Eater would all look good together because they all have a moving mouth and stuff. So, it's a little slow, but I would say this movement is okay for a zombie, though. Because being serval would be really cool, but I don't know if the cellar dweller movement he does this would really fit the character as much. I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm moving on to Lord Raven. So this is another one that was not what I expected. It moves its head and arms continuously back and forth. See, I thought it was going to be more like Looming Strawman, where it goes down together and stays for a while and then resets. That's kind of what I thought, but that's not what it does at all. The voice is the voice of like the Smoldering Reapers and stuff. And I thought it was going to have like some deep demonic type voice. Although I think that probably the Smoldering Reaper type voice probably does end up fitting it better in the end. But yeah, it's another one of those that right now it feels kind of weird. But as the season goes on, I think it'll start to grow on me. There's a lot of those that I feel that about.
I knew you would be here soon. You could say I have eyes all over.
Okay, I'm just making sure you can hear me. Oh, sorry. Try that again.
I knew you would be here soon. You could say I have eyes all over. Remember, wherever you run, my crows and I will find you.
Right now, I think the main reason why I'm not sure is because I don't even know where I'd want to display him in our yard yet. A lot of animatronics, sometimes I buy animatronics that I don't even like a lot, but just because I have an idea of where they could work in our yard. So like Mommy's Favorite, it's not one of my favorite props at all, but I still bought it because the moment it came out, I always had a thought of where it would work good in our yard, and it did. So it's things like, there's certain things that I don't like the best, but I get them because they do look good where I put them in the yard. But there's things like this, and our yard is so full of animatronics, so like I'm trying to think about, if I get it, where would this fit? Probably the hell area, but yeah. Some animatronics that's what kind of makes my decisions on what I buy, is how am I going to fit it in my display, because that's the only time I use animatronics anymore. 2 days out of every year for 2 nights, 6 or so hours a night, so they get 12 hours of use each year, and that's it. Then they just sit in the storage. So the only time they get used is, yeah. So I buy animatronics that I actually know where to use in the yard, which I find a place for everything. So now maybe I should talk about Lucky Bottoms first. It's just a generic, I guess, clown animatronic. It's got cool details, but it's a constant motion animatronic, and the audio is gonna get so annoying on this thing. There is no way stores are gonna always have this volume on. Like, stores are gonna have the volume on this thing like off sometimes, because the manager at Spear last year hated Punctured Pete. I don't know, she never liked Punctured Pete. And when I first asked her why, she didn't know what it was really, but she never liked it. But she thinks part of the reason was the fact that it was constantly going and constantly groaning. She just hated it. It was the first animatronic we sold of 2021, the first display piece, and she was happy when it was gone. Yeah, like, she didn't want to sell the display pieces, but that one she had no problem selling because she wanted to stop hearing it. I mean, I didn't have it all the way turned up even, but Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's gonna get really, really, really annoying. I don't know if that's... That's another one. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get that because I don't know where I'd use that. All our clowns are pretty much in the front yard. So I don't think I'm gonna... I don't have plans of getting that right now because it's, again, for me to get them, I have to think about where they would look good in the yard. And right now, I cannot think of anywhere right now because our yard is so full and everything's already pre-planned. So right now, I'm not visualizing anything for this. So he might be a pass. Now this one, I have quite a bit to say. Monty, he is not what I was hoping for, I guess, because all he does is slowly move his arms back and forth and moves his mouth. This, to me, should have been a servo animatronic. With the price point of $300, I feel like it could have done so much more. I don't know why it's priced so high. I don't know if it's because the fur all over it, if that made the cost go up. I don't know. But hear me out. If this thing had the servos like Grimm, the moving eyes that shift side to side, the head looking around, it starts out, the audio would start all quiet and a little calm, but it would still be creepy and eerie the way it looks around. Then it starts splashing, it gets more intense. That would be pretty cool, I think. I don't think a body turn would really... It wouldn't need a body turn, but having servo arms that clash them together would look a lot better. They probably just use that typical type reindeer mech because they move so slow and it just doesn't look good. If those syllables were actually metal, it would get really annoying, but like they don't have to make them metal. But just me visualizing this as a servo animatronic would be so cool. And I wish they would have went that route with this. And if that would have still made it $350 and $400, I think it would still be worth paying that if it was as cool as I imagined it in my head. And I don't know if you can see it visually the way I do in my head. I don't know. Maybe not. Some of you probably do, some don't. But I'm just imagining this, like I said, with the face being fully servo, with the eyes looking around, all, just him, and then it just could be so creepy. It could be so much better. It has so much more potential than what they gave it. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's what happens with these spirit animatronics. The concept is really cool, but the way they choose the final execution of the movements, the detail, they always end up lacking stuff, and it makes it fall flat. They're never as cool as they could be or should be. Because I know sometimes they think certain movements aren't necessary, but just because it's not necessary doesn't mean they shouldn't do it, because I want to use some older examples of items, and that's why I chose to talk about this last, because this is going to be kind of a topic for the rest of the video. Things like this. Let's just talk about Gemmy's prime during their time. The things they did. Like, let's talk about Nightcrawler here for a second. It was an animatronic. Its main feature was to crawl, although it didn't work too well. They never really crawled too well. But they went ahead and gave it the additional features of moving eyes and a moving mouth, and the arms move with the wheels. So it has 4 animations. An item like this tabletop it wasn't necessary to give it that many movements, but they did it anyways. And that's what made it so cool. It's crawling. You're not going to see the eyes moving really when it's crawling for an item this little, but they did it anyways. That's what I think is cool. It wasn't necessary, but they did it anyways, and that's what made it better. If Gemmy made something like this now, they would totally they would not give it the moving eyes. They would not. I don't know if they'd make the mouth move or not. Probably not. But, just giving it all those features that and these were Jimmy's earlier days when they were practicing on this stuff. Now these companies should be better at this stuff, but they're not doing it. There's plenty of other examples, and I know these are all tabletops, but the same thing applies for life sizes or tabletops, because nowadays tabletops, we sometimes see we never see tabletops with more than 2 animated I'm not talking about lights or anything, more than 2 animated features. We rarely actually ever see any tabletops that have more than 1 animated feature. Another one is this, it crawls, it all lights up, and then it moves side to side too. Was the side to side necessary? No, probably not, because its main thing is to crawl, but they did it anyways. And another thing, like a item this small, it moves its wings, moves its mouth, lights up its eyes, and spins around. It has all these animations for something this small. Another thing is, I like to use this as example. I thought this was so cool when it came out too, because the moving eyes and the moving jaw. The moving eyes added so much to this. I know they took that feature away on the later model, and that's, I think, just their way of cheapening. I mean, this did cause the wires to pull off the light up eyes, so they may have stopped that feature because of that, but I think it was also to just make things cheaper. And then again, things like spirit balls, when they made life sizes, they made them have as much animation as they could possibly do. Spirit balls, they moved its mouth, moved its head, and moving eye. Every part of it moves. The eyes, the mouth, the head. It's just a head and a globe, and every part of it is animated. So, Face Ripper, he has moving eyes, pulls his face down, his mouth moves. It has all the features it needs. I mean, it didn't have to move its eyes either, but they chose to give it moving eyes as well. It's that topic of it might not be necessary, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. Now, maybe you're done. I've rambled on enough about that topic, but I just wanted to get that point across because, like I said, these animatronics can be so much better than what they actually give them. And another thing, so I say there's 3 topics that can break an animatronic from its full potential, and that's, the animation is what I just talked about, lack of animation, audio, which isn't really a big one to me, and detail. An item looking a lot different from a well-detailed stock photo of the, when we see a picture of a prototype and how good it looks, but then the produced model doesn't even look half as good as the one that was advertised. A good example of that is Mommy's Favorite. The prototype had the stuff dripping down from her eyes and just looked so much creepier. But on the final model, they took that away. It just looks like a normal girl. Not even really a Halloween. It doesn't even look much like a Halloween decoration besides what she says, referring to the fact that she killed her mother. And she only has 1 phrase, while the prototype had 4 phrases, and they cut all of them except for the 1. It's things like that kind of broke the animatronic. Johnny Punk, he has a good execution. He can look creepy. Like I said, if you have him hanging in a tree, I can see him looking creepy if you have just a steady spotlight shining on him and he's swinging really slow. It can create a creepy atmosphere, but as soon as you turn the audio on, it takes away that whole creepy atmosphere. It ruins it. But like I said, most of the time I'm not too picky with what the animatronics say. Like, a lot of people hate Peekaboo Clown because of his phrases. For me, the phrases have never really bothered me that much. And with a display like ours, where you have over 100 animatronics all making noise and talking at the same time, you're not going to hear what they're saying anyway. So, using Mommy's Favorite only having 1 phrase doesn't really matter for our display because you're not listening to it anyways. Johnny Punk, what he says doesn't matter when he's in our display because you're not listening to it anyways. So sometimes the audio, that's why the audio for me is the least important part, because with all these going off at the same time, you're not going to listen to any single prop. You're just going to watch how it moves. So that's why I prefer as much animation as possible, because that's the biggest thing for me, is watching how much all of them move. So yeah. Anyways, I've talked about that for so long. Here's the video. But see, it's just... yeah, it... And now, I could see me using him in the toy section theme of our backyard, but it's a really small section, and that was pretty full last year. So, I could probably manage to get it to fit it. I always do. But, yeah, like I said, it had so much more potential than what they gave it. It could have... I've seen a lot of people on Facebook saying they love this, like, they like it. They're so excited to get this. They're definitely picking it up. But it still could have been so much better than the final execution of this. And I just wish they would go that extra step, like I was talking about it not being necessary, but doing it anyways, because it still would be better. Now, the topic about things like, I'm going to use like young Crouchy as an example, I guess, because when I first came out, I remember I was like, this is really, this is so dumb. Like, this is their dumbest thing. Like, this is, everyone's like, okay, this is dumber than Johnny Pumpkin. But, you know, it overall, I know it's still going to be a good seller. There's a lot of people who love the regular Crouchy, and they're going to love this one too. Some customers aren't even going to know the difference, that this is a totally different prop. The ones that don't follow these social media sites, the customers that just go to Spirit maybe 2 times a year and don't follow their social media, they're not going to know, they're not going to care. If it's cool, they're going to buy it to their standard. Like, there's a lot of... This community is a very small chunk of Spirit's profit. Very small. So we don't affect their sales too much. I mean, we do when it comes to if we like a lot of animatronics, then yes. But there's, again, I've worked at Spirit for over 10 seasons. Johnny Punk was a good seller at our store. Okay, so knowing that and seeing that and experiencing that it's sold decent for something that was so lackluster to the whole Hunter community, because not really anyone really liked Johnny Punk. He only became likable because of how bad it was, not because it was a good prop, but because of how there's different likes. You can like something because it's so bad, it's just hilarious. And, you know, that Nate guy on YouTube kind of turned it into a meme with the what are those, you know. So it became liked because of that, not because it's scary or cool or anything like that. But, yeah, it became liked for the wrong reason. But it's still gonna... But these people that bought it, I think, were not people who thought it was... A lot of them were just, you know, families with younger kids that wouldn't get some of the scarier things. You know, it would be like a starter type animatronic for young kids. That's probably all the people that bought that thing, you know. But my point is, no matter how much we hate some of these animatronics, there's always going to be the people that love the animatronics that we hate. They're still going to make their sales off of those animatronics, so therefore they're still going to get their money for it. So they're not... Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say about young Crouchy, is a lot of us don't really like it, but it's going to sell well. It's going to... Actually, I think it's going to sell really well, just because, again, working at Spirit, seeing how much people actually buy from Spirit. I mean, it's crazy. Every year, people buy more and more animatronics. People spend more and more. I shouldn't be surprised, but I do get surprised, because I'm like, every year, we're working at Spirit, you're supposed to reach a certain goal of sales each day. You're supposed to double the sales. Like, let's just give a random date, October 20th. You're supposed to double the sales of this year than what you did the previous year. You have to do better on that certain day. They want you to reach a higher goal, and we always almost do. Like, sometimes we, like, make 5 times more than what we did the previous year on that certain day. It's just, yeah. And last year, 2020, it didn't really, we had COVID, but that didn't really stop people from buying Halloween at all. It didn't affect sales at all. I mean, we sold so much. And last year, people had gotten over of staying in the house all the time. People were out and about again, and sales were crazy at Spirit Halloween. I mean, we had shipping delays of Halloween animatronics, or in general, everywhere had shipping delays, not just Spirit, but people were trying to find animatronics so much. The demand for animatronics just last year had grown so much from all the previous years that even if the sale, or if the shipments were not delayed, stores were left with nothing. People were buying out as many animatronics as they could. I mean, I saw it. I mean, people were going crazy over it. We have never sold animatronics so fast like we did last year, any previous years. When Spirit first opened 2010 in our area through 2014, we did not have any animatronic sales very often. We would rarely sell an animatronic. But now they just we would take animatronics from the shipment, put them on the floor. They wouldn't be there for even an hour, and almost all they would start being gone. They would go right away. We wouldn't even have to put them on display or anything, and they would just go. Just when a customer asks, what we have, and when we show them the animatronics, what we have, even though they're not on display, just describing what they do, they sound interested. The customer sounds interested, and they end up buying it. So whether even these animatronics that we consider not good, they still end up selling so well to all these other customers that shop there every year. It's just crazy. I don't think I can describe it. I've just experienced so much with sales working at Spirit. It's something you've got to see for yourself to understand how crazy this has all evolved. So I think, yeah. So a lot of people are saying that the props just aren't gory anymore and all that stuff. I understand, both sides. I know we want to see more gore on props, but I also understand why Spirit pulls away from it, since I do feel like this stuff is definitely being targeted towards kids more than adults now, because kids are so into this stuff now. Like I said, it's Spirit, the community, it's just completely different today than what it was, like I said, back in 2010. There was rarely people who bought animatronics. It was always older people who had been doing haunted houses for years. Now it's just random families just buying animatronics. They're being bought. These animatronics are being bought. Han Farmer is pretty solid with all the things he's said in all of his Spirit videos, his Jemmy case study, Morbid. All that is very, very accurate, and it all makes sense. But these are being bought as toys for kids. This is what kids like now. They like animatronics. They're Peekaboo. Peekaboo Clown in 2020, we only had 2. Lucas bought the first one, and then the display was there. Some customer with a 4-year-old kid bought it on opening day. The kid was loved all the animatronics and was obsessed, and that Peekaboo Clown happened to be the one that he wanted the most. And again, these are toys now. The kids, they don't scare kids really, these animatronics. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be the kids that are crying and screaming in Spirit, but but yeah, no, these things sell so much more, to those, to all these kids and these family YouTubers like David's TV, Beal Brothers. They all buy all these animatronics. That's, I think, again, that's the reasoning for the take back on the gore, I think, is because they know they're they know it's almost all kids now that are like buying these things so much. You know, I have to. Oh, yeah, because like when the props are more gory, parents don't want to buy their kids stuff that's all bloody and full of gore because it's just not. Parents don't like, and it's understandable. Parents don't want to expose their kids to that gross stuff. But to me, the gore on props never really bothered. See, I don't see. I do get disturbed in like slasher films, like Michael Myers, like when they show all these stabbing. I don't like that. That does generally disturb me. But when it's an animatronic and it's painted blood out on it, it doesn't look real enough. It never had. Even when the props were gory, it was never real enough to actually disturb me. It never looked real enough. So therefore, it's never disturbed me. But when it's real gore, I don't like it at all. I'm not a person that likes gore, and so so the take back on gore doesn't bother me too much. And a lot of these animatronics that are really plain and clean with the clean clothes, like the butcher, Jerry, Gary, whatever his name is supposed to be, they're they have bloody axes and shit, and they're supposed to be covered in blood. But the thing is, you can buy a bottle of blood and like take the clothes off, splatter it all over, let it dry, put it back on, and then there you go. You got gore all over the place. It's something as simple as that. I mean, I think that's I think they're taking away the gore so you can also customize it to how gory you want it to be, maybe. But it's also another way to make another sale. Buy a bottle of blood at Spirit. It's companies try to like make it to where you have to buy more product to yeah. I hope you know what. Yeah, it's an upsale. You have to at Spirit, like if it's a fog machine type prop, well, it doesn't come with the fog machine, so you got to try to upsell them a fog machine to go with the fog machine. So I think it's probably the same thing with these animatronics that are supposed to be bloody. If you want it to be bloody, well, buy the bottle of blood to splatter on it to go with your animatronic that's supposed to be bloody. It works in that way too, I guess, but nobody really wants to add on what should already be there. But I don't know. There's many different ways you can look at it, but for me, I think it is because this stuff is more liked by the kids now than, and with us older fans, I think we're okay, we're not wrong. I'm not wrong for saying this, but I think a lot of us are really, really picky nowadays when it comes to animatronics. That sometimes it's just almost impossible to actually fully please us. Basically, because even looking back when the animatronics were better, we still found something to complain about them at the time that they came out. People were still complaining about those props that we thought were better now. People were still complaining about the things they didn't like about them, not just the prices. They should have done this and that and that. We've always complained about the animatronics no matter what. The prices, it doesn't surprise me that Spirit gets more expensive every year because it's something that's been happening. Like, again, I've worked at Spirit every year. I've been buying from Spirit since 2009. The prices have gone up every year since 2009. The prices from 2010 were a little higher from 2009. The prices in 2012 were a lot higher than 2010 and 11. Let's use Harvester from 2011 as an example. He was $90 when he came out. He lifted his head up, moved his mouth, turned his head. He had a lot of animation for $90, but he doesn't have a whole lot of body structure to him, I guess. It's just a pole, and then the rest is all one piece, pretty much. But it was still only $90. I mean, he was one of those animatronics that his price raised every year that he came back, but he was $90 when he first came out. Now, Mean Old Gramps was an animatronic that came out in 2012. Same exact animation, nothing different. $120. That was kind of a big price raise for me, I thought that was really expensive at the time. I complained about that. Jumping Spider was $70 when it first came out, and then in 2012, Jumping Zombie came out. Wasn't he $120? Yeah, I was like, whoa, that is expensive. But now those prices are like small compared to what we have now. Because like now, if you look back to 2010, you got Demonica for $100, which was an animatronic that had 3 animations, and then you got Mommy's Favorite in 2020, which only moves side to side. That is only like a little above 2 feet for $100. Now, yes, Mommy's Favorite is better quality. They were rarely ever broken, whereas Demonica had lots of issues, had great detail, but it never really worked very well, especially its first year it came out. It wasn't very good quality. So, and maybe that's why, but I'm just saying, like, every year the price has gotten more expensive, and we've always complained about the price. Even when they were cheaper, they were still expensive at the time that they came out. Dead Humor was $70, and it's the same mech as the Rising from the Grave, which when the Rising from the Grave Zombie came out in 2010, it was only $40. So 2011 it raised to $50. 2012 it was still $50, but 2013 it jumped to $70 along with Dead Humor. So it went from $40 to $70. So that was a big price increase for that time. That was really expensive. That was considered really... Now people would be willing to pay $70 for a Dead Humor. But if it was brought back now, it would probably be $150 minimum. Because, again, inflation and all that stuff has happened. So, yeah. So we've always complained about pricing. So pricing's always going to be something that we complain about. But I was talking about how we're never satisfied with, I think I heard from a source that even Gina from Spirit's Instagram page, I believe, said we're not easy to please, and we're not easy to please. We always have such high expectations, and I feel like when our expectations are too high, it leads us to be all the more upset when it's not what we expected. I remember there was a few years ago, I stopped, having expectations. I think it was 2018. I stopped having real expectations on what they were going to have. I didn't really care if it was good or not good. The way I looked at it, if they're not good, it saves me money. I don't have to buy as much if I don't like it. So sometimes I'm actually happy if they're not all really good, because then I'm not spending all my money. But I always spend all my money on them anyways. But but I kind of stopped caring, so I feel like you're more satisfied when you don't expect as much, So sometimes I think we set ourselves up to be disappointed when we have such high expectations. Now, 2020 was not a very good year. Most of the animatronics were not very good. There were some good ones, Harvester of Souls, Nightcrawler. There were some good ones, but there was a lot of really weird ones that weren't really that good. Didn't fit the themes. The themes always plays a big part in how people like this stuff too. But then 2021, everything seemed a lot better. All the props were a lot more likable. There was originality, bigger hits. A lot more of the animatronics seemed to fit the themes because it was a factory. There's always going to be the few that don't fit the themes, which is okay. But when there's more that don't fit the theme than there are that do, that's where it feels kind of weird. Again, like 2019, there was more animatronics that didn't fit the themes than there was animatronics that did. And that happened in 2020 as well. Fright in the Box did not fit the island. Little Daisy and the Maestro fit that theme better than that did. And it was a filler in-box only prop. Angeline didn't fit the theme. Trying to think about, there's clowns with, the clowns that were, certain clowns maybe could fit an island, I guess, if it was done right, but the clowns they chose to do probably not. Scarecrows, maybe. Nah, I don't know. It's just lackluster. It just doesn't. Yeah. But the factory, a lot more did make sense. Buzzsaw made sense. Almost all of them made sense. Evelyn Leach didn't make sense, and Ophelia didn't make sense. But overall, most of the animatronics did fit the themes. Caretaker didn't. Night Stalker didn't. Like I said, there's gonna be at least 4 that don't fit the themes as well nowadays. But yeah. Just a minute. I gotta. So yeah, I was saying, like, expectations. Like, after 2020 was felt like a better hit than 2020. Everything was so much better. The themes were better executed. The props that went in them seemed to fit better. Everything was better. What the props had better animation. They did more. They were more interesting. Then here's 2022, where I feel like some of the animatronics are lackluster again, and some of the animatronics don't fit the themes. So I feel like having the high expectation after 2021, we had higher expectations for 2022. I think that's why a lot of us get upset, is because once we have certain expectations, we expect the next year to be better than the previous years. But sometimes when it's the same, or it's not as good, there's not as much originality, then we think the whole year altogether is bad. And it just, again, it's one of those things where I think sometimes that's why sometimes I think we lead ourselves to be disappointed. Our high expectations, kind of ruin, having such high expectations. Oh my god. Anyways, yeah, because I think this is why, like, Spirit, is more focused on, making these scenes more directed towards kids now, because a lot of times the kids don't care if they're scary. They don't care what they do and don't do. We're not as picky when they're kids. I think, kids aren't as hard to please as we are, because especially coming from a time where all this stuff, like I said earlier in this video, when they put as much animation as they possibly could into an item, and now they just don't do that. Now we feel disappointed because they did this stuff when it wasn't popular. They made these things do all this stuff when it wasn't popular, and now that it's more popular than ever, now they won't do what they did in the beginning. They're making them do less and less, it feels like, and we're just so disappointed. Whereas, the kids that are going to Spirit now feel exactly the way we did when we were younger. They're just as excited about these things, even though to us they're not what they were when we were younger. But to every kid of every generation, it's going to be the same thing. They're going to feel the same way we did during our prime. It's their prime now. It's just going to keep evolving. This stuff is going to keep evolving. In our terms, we call it downgrading, but yeah, it's evolving. So I guess basically what I'm saying, it is what it is. There's not much that's going to change it unless this stuff actually did stop selling, which isn't going to happen. Again, working at Spirit all these years, seeing sales get higher and higher each year, nothing's really, Spirit does try to listen to their fans as best they can, but they do still try to make a little bit for everyone, which is still good. And I know I'm guilty of bashing Spirit too, of saying, oh, this is so weird, because it's another one of those things. I have such high expectations for certain animatronics that I see. It's like I can see how a certain animatronic like Monty can be so much better, but they just don't give it what it needs, or does, the reason why, like, when I start to like diss Spirit a little bit is like, well, not really. Like, okay, so Party City and Home Depot's lineup this year is pretty good. People, are like, this stuff is all better than Spirit's stuff. And the reason why I get so I guess judgy towards Spirit is because I don't, it's hard to try to, I don't know, influence or feel, I don't know what I'm trying, I have to think of how to word this, sorry, but basically, the fact that, Ace Hardware is pulling off, sometime in some people's opinions, a better lineup than signature Halloween store, see, I don't want another business to be more successful than Spirit. Spirit Halloween, when you think about it, should always be the best no matter what. But when they start to lack on things, and other companies, or Party City, Home Depot, start to feel like they have better stuff, more originality, more uniqueness, more better quality, I feel like Spirit needs to really take note of that and really step up their game. And I know these companies don't communicate. They're all competitors. They're all trying to be better. It would, that's the point. They're all trying to be better. But so they're not saying, oh yeah, we're gonna Home Depot's not to Spirit, oh yeah, we're gonna release all these 12-foot characters that are gonna be, we're gonna be better than you. No, they're not. No, everything is all secret. Everything is all. But I feel like Spirit. I want Spirit to stay the best. I don't want to see a hardware store be better than a Halloween store, or a party store being better than a Halloween store. A Halloween store, a signature Halloween store, a very, very popular Halloween store that makes a lot of money, should be better than a hardware store. And that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried for Spirit that a hardware store is going to beat them in quality, in uniqueness. It shouldn't be that way. Just a few years ago, Home Depot was selling crappy Pan-Asian animatronics, crappy cheap Pan-Asian shit. And now they're selling really cool stuff that some people say the quality's better. I think it's debatable. Party City, Spirit Halloween, Home Depot, they all sell animatronics that are from Seasonal Visions. It's the same company. I feel like the quality could be, similar. Same with, all three of those places have techie animatronics, which therefore the quality should be pretty similar between all three of the places. But just saying, my point is, Spirit should always still be the top. I just don't. I think it's weird that, again, that a hardware store would beat a Halloween store. Like the tombstones that Ace Hard, not Ace. Was I saying Ace Hardware? I don't know. I meant Home Depot. The tombstones, look like they're at Home Depot, look like they're better quality than the stuff that Spirit sells. And Spirit sells their they have these styrofoam tombstones that rip apart in the wind, and and if Home Depot is getting these good better quality tombstones, then Spirit needs to get better quality ones too, so that the competitors isn't better. I want to see Spirit be better than all the other companies that are trying to beat Spirit. But it seems like it's not. It seems like that's what's starting to happen, though, that these other competitors are starting to be better, and I guess it's disappointing me, because you want Spirit to be better. That's why people are so disappointed with Spirit, because it just doesn't make sense that Home Depot could beat Spirit. Because some of those little tombstones that Spirit sells for $7.99 are at the dollar store for $1. Some of them, and Spirit improving the quality without making a huge, if Home Depot can sell animatronics for a decent price, then I feel like Spirit could too. Although I don't know, maybe part of the reason why Spirit products are so expensive is because not 100% of that money can go to Spirit. Some of that money Let's say if it's a techie animatronic, part of that money has to go to techie. Part of it has to go to bills. This money has to go. It can't go all to one place. It goes to separate places, I feel like. But still, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. If you think I'm making sense, or if any of this makes sense, or if maybe I'm not. Maybe, but I'm trying to. The skeletons too. The hanging skeletons. Spirit sells just regular standard cheap hanging skeletons for $50, but some places could have better quality ones for a lower price. And it just, again, it's that thing of wanting Spirit to be better. I don't want other places to have better quality when you would expect a Halloween store to have the best quality and the best products. And all those, skeleton animal bone that they sell, like those fish skeletons, octopus skeleton, they have all those animal skeletons. I've seen, those skeleton things at other places that are bigger than the ones that Spirit sells, and they're not as expensive as the ones that Spirit, which it doesn't make sense. Like the skeleton snakes, I've seen some at Target that are bigger than the ones that Spirit sells. Are they as good of quality? I think they're the same. I don't know. The Nightmare Before Christmas stuff, I remember it was those hanging Jack and Sally's and Zeros. The ones that Spirit sold were pretty little, but then at Menards they had huge ones, big ones. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't Spirit have that? Like, what? I don't know. That is one of those things. Like, again, I want to believe Spirit is the best and will always be the best, but when you see things like this at other stores that feel like they could be a little, that's what, again, I'm worried for Spirit. I'm not, I don't know. And again, all this stuff, no matter like what the quality is, again, it's still gonna sell. Like I said, the tombstones, they sold everything last year sold so well. No, there was like, stores were wiped like last year. I mean, Spirit Halloween usually has a lot of leftover stuff and carryover for the next season after each season ends, even after the 50% off sale. But stores last year were wiped out of again, it's not just the shipping delays. People were just, again, the demand is so much higher for this stuff now. Like hairspray, we almost sold out of hairspray. We never almost sell out of hairspray. Like certain costumes, our costumes were bare. There's usually like still lots of costumes left by the end of the season. Last year there was barely nothing, especially for kids. We had like no kid costumes by the time we closed. It was really sad. Like, and seeing those kids come in and not getting the costumes. I know you should never do your shopping last minute, like a week or 2 days before Halloween. You should never do that. So you're kind of asking for the stuff that you want to not be there by doing that, but you feel bad for the kids because it's not really their fault. Their parents should have like took them to the store earlier and stuff, but you feel bad. It's actually embarrassing seeing the stores so empty that there's just nothing interesting. Like, seeing, I only have 5 costumes to choose from. We had this whole wall of scary costumes. Now there's only five costumes left. 5 different types of it was sad. It was really sad to see like kids later in the season not get what they wanted because everything was gone and picked over. So my point is, this stuff is still selling well, regardless of the quality of the stuff, which therefore I don't think they see a reason for changing it and making the quality better if it's selling okay the way it is. But with Spirit though, you do kind of gotta give them credit sometimes, because if something is really faulty and they know it is, they will try to improve it. We've seen it time and time again with animatronics, like Lurching Zombie. The first model was so faulty, the next model was like bulletproof, never had issues. Spirit does communicate with their companies and be like, hey, every animatronic from Crazy Crate in 2019 was horrible. The wire harnesses were barely hot glued. Like, these companies cannot work a hot glue gun sometimes. It's really weird. But like the next year, they were so much better. The harnesses were so much better. The Crazy Crate is not as bad now as it was, you know, in 2019. I don't think Crazy Crate will ever go be that bad again. But yeah, so Spirit does, like, when something is faulty, they will try to do what they can to communicate with the companies to fix the issues. You know, Mr. Dark is another example. Lots had issues, factory errors last year, which led him to having mechanical problems. And this year it's supposed to be improved, so we'll see how that is improved and how much better they did with it. But, you know, companies like Techie and Crazy, they do try to improve their animatronics if the first models are really bad. So Spirit does try to step up at times when it's something that does need fixing. For me, like the quality of the animatronics doesn't bother me too much, because sometimes I know that they improve them over time. For me, it's actually more of the accessories that I get, like those the headbands that, you know, girls or females can buy, and, you know, they're so like cheap. You can squish them and they just break apart. You hang them on the shelf and they almost break. It's like, what the? And then they're like some of them are like $10.99, and it's like, what the? Okay, it's just weird. It's those little accessories that are so cheap. I know they're accessories, so, but it's just the fact that some of them are so cheap that it's bad. Like, it's the accessories that I get more like overwhelmed about than it is the animatronics or the costumes, because, you know, yeah, costumes and animatronics you can sometimes customize and modify to make them look better, but accessories not really. When they're really cheap like they are, there's not much you can do with them. Yeah. What I mean about these headbands, they're these headbands that have the little balls on them. Like, there's like Bumblebee ones, and I remember there was one year, 2018, there was Alien ones, and half of the whole shipment of them were barely hot glued, and they were all falling off and breaking apart. It's like, really? It seems like that, and those don't seem to ever really get better. Oh, those little parrots that they sell with the pirate costumes. I remember in 2012, I tried 3 of them. When I tried putting the strap around my shoulder, it broke. The strap, they were glued so poorly, the strap just broke right off. Like, barely even trying to put it on, it just broke. And I don't even know if it's changed. I don't know if they're still selling those parrots. So I don't know if they've upped that glue that they use on those, or I don't know if they still break. I don't try them anymore because that kind of ruined it for me. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna bother anymore. So I hope they did improve it if they're still selling them, but I don't know. See, yeah, for me it's all the accessories that, you know, all those fake weapons, but, you know, those get broken because kids play with them a lot. They're not meant to actually be hit, you know, with, and that's what a lot of people don't understand about those fake weapons, is they're not for actually, like, using as a weapon. They're fake. They're hand decorations. You hold them. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, and the fake weapons probably shouldn't be good quality. I mean, they could still hurt people, trust me, and they're not good quality. So yeah, it's probably okay that the weapons aren't good quality. But those chainsaws that they sell, those have gotten a lot cheaper over the years. The ones that we got last year, I don't even know if they were Gemmy ones. But Gemmy used to sell a lot of those chainsaws, and over a lot of them, people would play with them and they'd get broken. The chains would come off. They would get snapped and cracked all over the place. But last year, they were broken out of the box. All of them did not move the chain. Like, I think it was a different company. I don't think these were Gemmy ones. I think it's a company that's new to making these chainsaws and they don't know what they're doing. But they weren't good last year at all. Like, none of them worked 100%. There was something wrong with every single one. So, whereas before, yeah, maybe 2 of them were broke. But, yeah. Anyways, I think this video has been long enough. I think I've made plenty of points. let me know if you guys agree with the things I've said or not, because I want to know what you're thinking too. Like I said, you guys can't, see 100% from my perspective, and I can't see 100% from your perspective either. So the best way is to be open-minded about it and share your thoughts, because that's the best way you can, connect and, get a better understanding of these types of things. If I'm missing something, let me know, or if you think, yeah. So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video. The next ones will not be as long as this one. I really got into it in this video because everyone's been making videos about the spirit quality and what's happened to spirit, why they've declined so much and everything, and I've just made my input on why I think they did. So I'm not bashing anything, I'm not trying to be negative, it's just what I've noticed and realized from my experience working at spirit and all that stuff. So yeah, so again, let me know what you think and we can have a discussion in the comments, or yeah. So hope you like this video, and thank you for watching. If you've stuck through this whole video especially, thank you. So anyways, see you in the next one.